Hey guys, HackerSploit here, back again with another video, and welcome to the pfSense series. Now for those of you wondering what exactly pfSense is an open source firewall or router software that is based on the FreeBSD packet filtering program pf. For those of you who are familiar with FreeBSD and pf, that is what it is based on. And can be essentially used as a firewall, router, an access point, and DHCP server, DNS server, and a VPN endpoint. Alright, so as you can pretty much see, pfSense is a really great piece of software that can be coupled with any piece of hardware within limits, of course, and be configured into a firewall, router, an access point, etc. Now, you might be also wondering, why exactly am I making a video series on this? Well, first of all, I actually need to configure a firewall a router firewall combo for my network, which is what the purpose of this video is. And a lot of people have been asking me how to set up a firewall, what available software is there, what open source solutions are out there, and a lot of people were asking me after my Yersinia video when he talked about the DHCP server, when I talked about essentially taking down a firewall. You asked me to show this in a more practical sense, and as a result, I'm going to set up a pfSense firewall, and we're going to be performing various tests on it. Now, that being said, why would you want to create your own router or use a custom solution like pfSense? That might be a question that is on your mind right now. If you are potentially looking to do this after you watch this video, it could be something that interests you. Well, because the standard routers that you may find on the market are really or extremely underpowered and are not really suited to performance. Now, that being said, I say that with a bit of nuance, in the sense that there are many performance grade routers out there, routers or access points, but do they offer you a firewall solution? Do they offer you a VPN's endpoint? Do they offer you a various host of features like a captive portal? No, they don't, and that's primarily why you would want to move to a solution or to essentially set up hardware with pfSense on it to get this whole large and vast suite of features that you don't get with other solutions out there. Now, that being said, my deployment case is going to be very simple, or my deployment scenario is very simple to understand. But before we do that, let me actually take you through the installation process, or how to get it installed onto a USB stick or a CD drive. In my case, essentially getting it set up on a USB stick, and then I'll be showing you the hardware that I do have and what we're going to be using, and I'll take you through the installation process, getting it set up so that you can actually see it on my home network. So my deployment or my application is Soho. So if you're not familiar with networking terms, Soho is essentially a small office or a home office. So my infrastructure is very simple, and I'll show you this right now. I was able to grab a picture of the internet here that describes my deployment scenario very simply. All right, so we have the internet, and that is going to be my WAN cable that is coming into my office. That contains my internet connection. We then have the pfSense firewall or the router, which we are going to configure. I'm going to show you how to get this set up on hardware. And then that is going to go into my LAN switch, which is then going to go into my my wireless access point and my LAN, the computers on my LAN network. So that is very simple. You can see the deployment is simple, but again, the whole trick or the advanced bit really comes down into configuring the pfSense router. All right. Now, that being said, let us actually take a look at a few other bits of information that you need to take into consideration before we move forward. So as I said, the deployment cases or scenarios are very simple. You can use it as a firewall, you can use it as a firewall and a router, and you can also use it as a wireless router. Now, I am going to show you how to use it as a wireless router, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to be taking a look at setting it up as a firewall router combo. And of course, it really is irrelevant when you want to set it up as a wireless router, because you then need an additional piece of hardware, which is a wireless adapter, or if your computer does have one, you can use that, but really that defeats the purpose. In any case, my home network has a wireless access point or a router, whatever you want to call it. All right. And that is the most preferred way of setting it up. The most preferred way is setting it up as a router or a firewall, or you can set it up as both. Alright, so the last question that might be on your mind before I get on with the installation, now I'm taking quite a bit of time, is why has this video taken so long to make? Well, the reason it's taken so long to make is that I was searching for the correct hardware. Now, as I said, I am going to be setting up this up permanently on my network, and I'll get into the logistics of that as and when I'll show you my hardware, which will be after this segment where I show you how to get it installed on a USB flash drive. And essentially I've been going through selecting the correct adapter, the network interface card that is, and a power efficient processor. That being said, let us get started with the installation and the requirements as per your hardware. Alright, so the website is pfSense.org, and that will be in the description section, and all you need to do is go to download. You can of course explore their website, and what you're looking for is the latest stable version or the community edition that is right over here. Alright, so this, as you can see, this is the most recent stable release and the recommended version for all installations. You can go ahead and take a look at all the upgrade guide, for pre-configured systems. That is the appliances that they have on Netgate. So they do sell their own routers that they've built already configured with the pfSense software on it and the particular or recommended hardware. Alright, so you can check out their website as well. So you can just take a look at the products. You have their pfSense products right over here. And we'll give that a few seconds to load. So I'm not sure why that is taking a while to load up. So yeah, I can say get pfSense now, and that these are the other deployments. So when you take a look at the appliances right over here, you can essentially browse through them via their model and their the appropriate application. So you have your small branch office, medium enterprise data center, large enterprise, cloud perimeter, etc. They all sorted out that way. So you can see this is suited towards a small office, and when you take a look at the hardware I've set up, you'll pretty much see it is overkill. But that being said, you can go ahead and check out their appliances if you do not want to set up your own hardware. They're reasonably priced, and they offer very good performance as they are set up for this particular purpose. Alright, so you can go ahead and check that out for yourself. Now when we talk about installing it for ourselves, again, it is recommended to use the stable version because you are setting this up as an essential piece of service. Because it is going to act as a router and a firewall, you need this to be running 24 hours a day. Alright, so having issues, it shouldn't be something that you want on your piece of hardware and software, that for that matter. Alright, so select the image to download. You want to make sure it is the latest stable version. And as for the architecture, I'm setting this up on a 64-bit computer. The installer is going to be the USB memstick installer. And the console, this is very important. If you are using a VGA console, make sure you select VGA. If you're using serial DVI, make sure you select that as well. In my case, the computer I've set up is using VGA, so I'm just going to hit VGA. You can select your network mirror and hit download. It should be about 300 megabytes. Alright, so I have mine downloaded already. Now you might be asking, how do I get this installed on my USB flash drive? What piece of software do you use? And the piece of software I do recommend using is Rufus. Alright, now I tried out Rufus version 3.0.1304. That is the latest version right over here. Or version 3.4 as it's so called. So you can use that. In my opinion, I would recommend using Rufus version 2.12. The link will be in the description section, and here we have the file that I just downloaded. So once you have downloaded the compressed file, you want to extract it to your desktop, and this will be the result. You'll have a nice image file right over here depending on the options you selected, and that is what we're going to be using for the installation. Now I already have my flash drive plugged in. That is what I'm going to be using for storage as well. So I'm just going to open up Rufus right over here, and I'm going to hit yes, and we'll wait for that to launch up, and we'll give that a few seconds, and then I'll show you the installation. So I have a 16 gigabyte flash drive plugged in, and it looks like it was already pre-configured with universal USB installer, but that's besides the point here. So I will go into the bootable option here and select a DD image, and I want to select my desktop and the appropriate file. So desktop and the pfSense file right over here, and hit open. And once that is selected, you're pretty much ready to go. You don't need to change anything over here, and just hit start. And this is going to warn you that it'll essentially erase all data on the particular flash drive, and hit OK. So it's going to start the installation process and it's going to start the writing process. All right. So once that has begun, you want to give that it's time to essentially start writing the image to the flash drive. So I'm just going to wait for this to complete and I'll get back to you when this is done. Alright, so it has just completed writing and we are ready to go, as it just tells you right over here, we are ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close and I'm going to eject the flash drive, and I'll see you on the other side where I should be holding my camera for the first time on this channel. So I'll see you then. Alright guys, welcome to my humble abode or my office, whatever you want to call it. So this right here is the hardware that I'm going to be using for setting up my pfSense router firewall combination or combo, whatever you want to call it. So many of you who are experienced pfSense users or have set up a pfSense router before might be wondering, has this guy completely gone bonkers? And the answer to that is no. I have a very good reason for having such an overkill piece of hardware. Now, for those of you who are essentially learning of pfSense for the first time, might be a little bit confused as to what type of hardware you require. And the truth is, for setting up a pfSense router for a small office or your home office, are that you need very, very nominal requirements in regards to hardware. And of course, that also depends on the type of internet connection you have. So it depends on whether you have a 10 megabit connection, a 20 megabit connection, etc. So in regards to your processor requirements, you essentially require I think about 20 megabits to 50 megabits, a 1 gigahertz processor that is single core. All right, so I'll get to that in a second. And as for your RAM requirements, you essentially require 256 megabytes for 22,000 connections, 512 megabytes for 46,000 connections, 1 gigabyte of RAM for 93,000 connections, and 2 gigabytes of RAM for 190,000 connections. So you might be wondering, what exactly are you running in terms of hardware on this behemoth of a computer right over here? And this is essentially a very, very old workstation that I got because I wanted to set it up initially as a backup or a file server. And I was looking for a more compact system for the pfSense configuration or the pfSense router. And I couldn't find one. What I was looking for essentially was one of those Core 2 Duos compact computers, those very small ones that you find in offices that, you know, secretaries use, etc. Those really garbage computers that, well, not really garbage, computers that have very, very low specs in regards to their processor and their RAM. But the thing that I realized is, depending on your configuration, your hardware configuration and the use case, is that resources really play a huge part in that. Now, let me explain for a second. I've deployed hundreds of pfSense configurations, before for offices, large enterprises, etc. And what comes into play is the physical power requirements or electricity requirements for setting up a router. Now, when you talk about Core 2 Duo processors, and in this case, what I'm running right over here is a Core 2 Quad Q6600, which is a quad-core 2.4 gigahertz. That is, 100% overkill for this particular use case. And until I get a really compact solution, I'm not going to use this as a permanent solution, because really it is just going to be a waste of power and resources. So when it comes down to power consumption, sorry about that, apologies for my recording skills, guys. I'm currently recording this on my mobile device, so if my hands do get a bit tired and there is a bit of shaking, I do apologize. So when you talk about TDP of the Core 2 Quad, you're looking at about 110 watts. Now that is absolutely crazy to have that running 24 hours a day. I was looking at the Core 2 Duo, that is about 56 watts depending on the particular version. Essentially, what I'm looking for my office would be something like a Core 2, well, not a Core 2, an Intel Atom, or you're looking for, the Centrino Duo, which was quite a poor processor by Intel. But yeah, I'll look for that. But in this case, in regards to setting this up, let me just go over the specs and the requirements, and let's talk about the network interfaces that you will require. So this is a HP workstation, and this is running, as I mentioned, the Core 2 Quad Q6600. This has about 8 gigabytes of DDR2 RAM, so DDR2 is going to be perfectly fine for this application. It has an NVIDIA Quadro. I'm not too sure about the model. That is for the simple fact that this does require a graphics card. and I have my network or my PCI adapter here, which is for Ethernet, which you will require. So this requires a dual Ethernet connection where you have your primary Ethernet connection, which is going to be your WAN cable going in, and you will then secondly have your PCI adapter, which is right over here. If I don't know if you can see that, apologies for my recording. That will be used for your output or your LAN, and you can configure them in various configurations depending on what you want. So you need two LAN outputs. One is going to be, well, not two LAN outputs, two LAN ports. One is going to be for the input from your WAN cable or your internet source, and then you're going to have your output, which is going to go through to your switch. Now, in regards to my office equipment, I currently have a TP-Link router, which is my wireless access point, and I've been using that as a switch, sort of a mix between a switch. I do have an actual TP-Link switch here, which I can show you. So that is currently running right over there. There is a very small 6-port switch, which I'm set to upgrade. And yeah, all right. So that is in regards to my network, and I'll be showing that off once I have it all set up. All right. So that is all in regards to the hardware. Now, when it comes down to using your network interface, let me just show you the adapter that I did purchase and the fact that it does make a difference. All right, so just give me a second, guys. All right, so this is the PCI adapter that I get whenever I'm configuring a pfSense router or firewall. Now, I know that pfSense does recommend using an Intel PCI adapter. Now, you can see that this is a 1 gigabit PCI adapter. Sorry about that. And depending on the internet connection that you have coming in through your WAN cable, you will need to get an appropriate adapter. So this is pretty much overkill because my internet connection is nothing more than 100 megabits. So yeah, this is pretty good for my case. If you are running this in an enterprise, you might want to take a look at the internet connection coming in and get a specific or the appropriate PCI adapter that you're going to use for this particular use case, and that's going to play a huge role in your configuration. But I think this is pretty much this is going to be the most suitable application. All right, so let me just close this system up, and we can get started with the installation. All right, so I'm just going to end off here, and in the next segment we'll get started with the installation. All right, guys, so I have my flash drive loaded up in my system, and I've just closed it up. And one particular thing to note before we get started, guys, is that this particular computer has a CMOS battery that is low. All the CMOS battery is low. I don't know why I said it like that, but in any case, let's get started. This is my console. The keyboard is on top of the system, as you can see right over here, and I'm just going to start it up. And it will tell me that I do have a low system battery voltage. So do please pardon me about that. I've already set up my BIOS settings to boot from the USB drive automatically. So the system battery voltage is low, and I'm just going to hit F1 on my keyboard here, and that should directly take me into the pfSense installer. And there we are. It's loaded up the FreeBSD loader. Fantastic. And the configuration file, the loaded configuration file, has been loaded up, and there we are. We have pfSense running. And it's gonna auto run. You can stop the auto run by hitting the space key on your keyboard. Right now it's currently loading right over there, so we'll just give that a few seconds. And in the meantime, I want to apologize for my poor video recording skills. This is probably why I don't even have a camera. I'm recording this on my mobile device, whose camera isn't too bad. This is native 1080p, I think 60 Hz per second. I'm not too sure. I'll probably release it in 60 Hz if the video does record it appropriately. So it's going through the hardware now, the hardware connected, like the entire list of hardware on my system. So there we have all the USB buses and any USB devices connected. And you have the flash drive right over there, the CD-ROM. We have my flash drive itself, the keyboard. I don't have a mouse, and there we are. So we have the copyright notice right over here, so I'm just going to hit OK, and please do pardon me as I use my other hand to essentially hit enter. So now it's going to ask you to, it's going to give you three options in regards to the welcome menu here. So you can install pfSense, you can take a look at the rescue shell, the recover config.xml. We'll be looking at these two settings here in later videos, but for now let's start off with the install pfSense option. I'm going to hit enter. Install, and yes, the key map, we're just going to hit auto. If it does give you the device is busy error, and that is primarily because I am installing this on the flash drive. So what you want to give this a few seconds And once this actually the freeze stops, is you just want to enter or escape on your keyboard. So there we are, and the installation is going to begin. So we're just going to wait for this to complete right over here, the initialization process. So it's going to start fetching the distribution, so we're going to give that a few seconds. I'm going to wait for this to complete, and I'll get back to you when this is actually done. Alright, so it is almost done. I'm now sitting on my chair because I was really getting tired. My hands were really tiring. I don't know if it's because of the size of my mobile device, but in any case, there we are. The overall progress is right over here, and the installation should begin after this. And there we are. It's going to start extracting the distribution files, and this is going to take a while. So again, I'm just going to pause this and get back to you when it's almost done. Alright, so while this is actually taking its sweet time to essentially extract the distribution files, what I want to take you guys through is the current the infrastructure or the configuration that I have in mind in regards to the LAN and the WAN cable. So if we just turn over to the right over here, what you're going to find is that the cable I'm going to be using for my WAN connection, or that is my WAN connection coming into my room, is this one right over here. Now I do apologize for the taped edges right over here. Well, my crimping skills aren't too good, so that is going to be coming into the PCI adapter, and then the LAN cable going out to my switch, which is right over here, is going to be going into the motherboard LAN port right over here, and again that goes into my switch right over there. Alright, and then finally my router, which is right over here, will go into my switch once that is done, and I'll show you that configuration as well, because we will have to set up the IP, we will have to set up a static IP that is in regards to my wireless access point. Alright, so as and while we're waiting for this to extract, that was pretty much what I wanted to explain. So again, I'm just going to wait for this to complete, and hopefully it does it quickly, because the configuration is going to be really exciting. So I'll see you guys when this is done. Alright guys, it looks like it's just hit 100%. I almost missed it. So we're just going to give this a few seconds. It usually takes a while at 100%. And we should be able to get pfSense running now, and we can get started with its configuration, setting up the various IPs and the interfaces, and of course we need to start configuring the WAN and the LAN ports. That is the most important bit here. So let's just see if we can get this running now. It shouldn't take too much time. Looks like all the files, there we are, fantastic, and we're ready to go. Alright, so again, just give this a few seconds. If it freezes like so, don't worry, it should resume. It should actually prompt me to restart the system now, given the fact that the installation is complete. So I'm just going to wait for this to complete, and we'll then follow up from there. Alright, so it's currently finalizing the installation, so just let it do its thing, and there we are. The installation is now finished. Before exiting the installer, would you like to open a shell in the new system to make any manual configurations? No, and again, don't worry about that. These are all options and settings we'll be looking at in the future videos. So I'm just going to hit no on my keyboard here, and that should prompt the reboot here. So we're just going to wait for this to reboot. Hopefully it does it now. This is one of the more annoying things about the installer, but you know, it is what it is. In all other regards, it is really cool. So there we are. Installation of pfSense is complete. Would you like to reboot in the system, into the installed system now? Yes, we do. You can also check out the shell, which is really for configuring the configuration file, but we don't want to do that right now. So I'm just going to reboot, and it's going to exit and give you the exit signal, which if you did want to know, there you are. Alright, so there we are, rebooting, and my focus always messes up there, and there we are. We have the Dell Precision Workstation T3400. If you are ever wondering about the model name, again, I'm just going to hit the F1 key here because of my CMOS battery. So you're having a computer this old really does give you an idea of how components wear out with time, especially hard drives, man. That's something that really wears out. So we're just going to wait for it to auto boot. We don't want to boot into multi-user mode. That is another advanced configuration menu that if you really don't know what you're doing, you should stay away from it. So something that I have dabbled into quite a bit. We'll also be looking at that in future videos. We're on to show you how to set up the firewall, all the rules you can set up. That is essentially in regards to the firewall rules. Setting up an endpoint VPN across your entire network. You can do that using OpenVPN as well. Setting up your captive portal. So there we are, starting up, going through all the devices. I'm gonna wait for this. There we are. We have the USB hubs. That's how you know it really is working. And we have my keyboard, which is a Lenovo USB keyboard. Make quite good keyboards. So there we are. Welcome to pfSense. And we're just going to give this a few seconds to start up here, and it should give us the welcome, the old known welcome sound. Hopefully it does. That will really be awesome for the video. Hopefully I'll include that in the intro, but let's see. The welcome sound is always awesome to hear from pfSense. So we'll give this a few seconds here. So I'm just going to wait for this to complete here. Hopefully it does load up, and there we are. Starting the device manager, loading the configuration, and there it does give you information about my processor. And yes, alright, so this is the configuration process. Now it's just begun, and yeah, I did remember that the welcome sound does come after you've already configured it. So let's take a look at what it's telling us here. So your valid interfaces these are the various interfaces on your running on this particular system. Now, why is this important? Because let me explain the interfaces for you. So we have RE0 and BGE0. That is the interface name. You have the particular MAC addresses, or the respective MAC addresses, the interface names, which is very good, the manufacturers, that is. So you have your Realtek, which is your PCI adapter, which is the TP-Link adapter, which is very important to know, and you have your Broadcom Netlink Gigabit Ethernet controller. That is the one on the motherboard, the default LAN port. Alright, so let me just get up here, and we can start configuring the LAN cables here. Alright, so as for the VLANs, I do not want to set it up right now, so I'm just going to hit no. Now it's going to ask you for your WAN interface name. I'm going to hit A for auto detection. So A on my keyboard, and it's going to tell me connect the WAN interface now and make sure that the link is up. My link is indeed up. So I'm just going to connect the WAN interface here. So just let me connect that. Hopefully I can do it without ruining the camera angle here. And there we are. It is connected right now, and that is the WAN. That is the WAN interface. There we are. The WAN connection is currently connected. I'm going to hit enter. Alright, and enter the LAN interface now. Or you can hit A for auto detection. I'm going to hit A once more, and it's going to ask me again. Hopefully it does give me. So connect the LAN interface now and make sure that the link is up. This is my LAN interface here. There we are. Hopefully I can get it connected. There we are. And that should be in. And now let me hit enter, and it's going to ask you to confirm the interface name. So RE is for WAN and BGE0 is for LAN. I'm going to hit yes, that is exactly what I want. So I'm going to hit a Y on my keyboard, and it's going to start writing the configuration. This is going to take a while, and once that is done, it should bring up the pfSense configuration screen where it should be running, and then we can start configuring the IPs. So there we are. Let's just keep this running here. I want to make sure you guys are getting all of this. Apologies for the recording once more, guys. I know this isn't the best in regards to quality, best of video quality. That's what I should have said. But anyway, starting the DNS resolver, it should have set up DHCP, or I do want to have DHCP enabled here, as that is quite important. Even though this is going to go directly into my LAN interface. What I do love about DHCP is the fact that I can configure my wireless access point automatically, or just directly from its interface, rather than assigning an IP manually. I can just find a free one that is available, and it'll take that one whenever we start up. Okay, so I'm just gonna wait for this to complete, and once it's done, I'll get back to you guys. Alright guys, you just missed the boot startup sound, and it has started up. So there we are, it started all these services. So you have the firewall, the gateway monitors, DNS resolver, and it's going to start up giving you the release version and the release date. So boot up is complete, and we're just going to wait for it to start up our session here. So just give it a few seconds, because you can see it is on TTY 0, which is awesome, which means this is pretty much the only session we'll have on this system. Okay, so pfSense is started up, and now comes the task of configuring it. Well, it is already configured by default, but I'll take you through options, or various options, if your configuration did not work. I will make a troubleshooting video, but you can see something interesting has happened here. It is giving you your interfaces, so your WAN, and that is the IP that it was assigned to it. So 192.168.1, 0.107, because the cable coming into my office is from another router. But you know, I don't want to have my server sitting in my living room. Need to set up a server room anyway. We have the LAN interface, which has the configuration, which is going to be on 192.168.1.1, rightly so. And we have the web configurator, which is what we're going to be used to configure it. Alright, so that being said, I'm going to leave this up, and you're going to see me on my screen where we'll get started with configuring pfSense from its administration panel on the web configurator. Alright, so I'll see you there. Alright guys, I'm currently on the IP address for the router now, or the administration panel, the pfSense administration panel. Which is on 192.168.1.1. It will prompt you to essentially confirm the security exception, because this does not have a valid certificate. So don't worry about that. Now, the other question that you might be having is, what are the default credentials? So the default username is admin, and the password is pfSense, which you can later customize for yourself. So I'm going to sign in. And it's going to tell you welcome to pfSense right over here, and this is the setup wizard. So we're just going to hit next and let that load up. Hopefully it doesn't take too much time during the configuration. Also make sure to change your administration panel password for your admin account. I'm going to hit next. This is for your global support, and we're just going to wait for this to essentially complete. The first startup might take a bit of time, but don't worry. That is completely normal. Let me just get rid of this right over here, and we'll just give this a few seconds to load up here. Alright, and that is loaded up. So you can then change up your host name. You can change it to whatever you want. I'm going to leave mine as pfSense because I like it that way. You can also change your primary DNS server, so I can change mine to Cloudflare, for example. I can have my secondary one, which is the Google DNS server, but I don't want to use that one, so I'm just going to hit next. I'm going to have Cloudflare as my primary DNS server. Sorry about that. And I'm going to hit next. And again, don't worry if it takes a bit of time. And there we are. This is your time server host name. Leave it as the default one right over here. Or you can change it. This is my time. Of course, you can change your time zone if you do want to. I'm going to change mine to GMT3. Sorry about that. GMT3. That's where I currently am located. I'm going to hit next. And again, we'll wait for this to load up, and probably around step 6 is going to prompt you to change your password for your administration panel. So we're just going to wait for this to load up. Boop, 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 boop. Pop, pop, pop. Yep, this is taking quite a while here. Abnormally long, which is quite unusual. And there we are, configure the WAN interface. So you can go ahead and configure how you want your IP addresses distributed. In our case, we want it done via DHCP. So I'm going to leave that on DHCP. You can do it if you want to have it PPTP, which is also quite cool, or you can have it static, depending on how you want to set up your network. I'm going to have mine on DHCP, although it is unneeded because in my office I'm primarily using LAN computer. I'm primarily using devices that use LAN, not Wi-Fi. So this is for static configuration. You can configure your DHCP hostname. If you leave it empty, it'll auto essentially assign one for you, so you can do that as well. This is for your PPPoE, and you can configure it right over there. PPTP. if you want to configure that. And I'm just going to hit next. Don't need to configure anything much there. We'll be going through the configuration settings in regards to the gateway, which is quite important. Hopefully you can get through this, without it aging us by about 10 years. All right, so this is your LAN IP address. The subnet mask, which is 24. Yes, that is the correct subnet mask I want, which is 255.255.255.0. So I'm going to enter a password here for my administration panel. I'm going to hit next. And again, yes, that is step 6. I've done this so many times, but pfSense is really, really awesome. You can see all the settings that we have right over here. We have the firewall settings, services, VPN, status, diagnostics. Really, really cool stuff going on here. Okay, so we will wait for this to complete. And again, hopefully we don't have to wait for a long or an extended period of time. I know my voice can be quite annoying sometimes. I do apologize for that. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Just gonna wait for this to complete. And there we are. So it's gonna tell us to reload pfSense with the new changes. We're gonna hit reload and give that its own sweet time to reload. And hopefully now we can get access to the system. So there we are. Reload is now in progress. Please wait. The wizard will now redirect you to the next step once the reload is completed. Okay, hopefully it does that for us. And there we are. pfSense is now configured. We recommend that you check to see if there are any new software updates, which I also recommend you do. In this case, we're just going to hit finish because we are running a stable version. Make sure to update to only stable versions, as that is quite helpful in regards to stability of your router. All right, so it's going to give you this copyright notice here. I'm just going to hit accept. And let me give you an overview of the interface here. So on your dashboard, you have your system information. So we have pfSense.local domain, that is the name and the domain that you selected. The user, admin at the appropriate IP, which is the IP you're currently logged on as. The system, the BIOS, we can go ahead and take a look at, which was released in 2010. God damn, that's 9 years ago. You have the version, the software version, and the latest software update, which you can download right over here. You have the CPU type, which is Core 2, Quad Q 6600, 2.4 gigahertz, 4 CPUs, quad core, really. The kernel PTI, you have your uptime, really important information there. The current date and time, your DNS servers. You have your, let's look at, you have your load averages, which are awesome. Your CPU usage, your memory usage, your swap usage, your disk usage. And you have your var run directory here and its appropriate usage. So, in regards to your CPU usage, memory usage, these are the two awesome statistics that it does give you. Yeah, I have 8 gigabytes of RAM on my route. How about that, man? Now that's what I'm talking about. All right, so that is the dashboard. Of course, you can take a look at your system. You have your advanced. We can click on that. Hopefully it loads up quicker this time. And well, actually, I'm not going to go through all the settings. You can take a look at the protocol that you are using here and the SSL certificate. I'll be showing you how to install all of this, the Max processors, all of this good stuff, the secure shell. There's a lot of settings that we have to take a look at. Alright guys, that is how to successfully install and configure pfSense on a piece of hardware. Now, of course, that hardware is really dependent on your particular application or use case scenario. But that being said, hopefully I covered every aspect of the installation. If you didn't understand anything, please do let me know in the comment section on my social networks, on my website. If you have any question in regards to this video, just let me know. If you saw anything that I did incorrectly, please do let me know as well. And yeah, let me know what you guys think, whether or not you are going to configure this for yourself. And yeah, I would love to see what you guys response is in regards to pfSense. What do you think about it, whether it is effective? And remember, this is part of a larger series where I'll be showing you how to configure everything from the firewall to the VPN and other services like the captive portal. And we can look at the DHCP server, etc. This is where I'll be using to explain a lot of the networking concepts, so that you guys can actually see a real working infrastructure in place. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comment section, my social networks on my website, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace, guys.